Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 20 of SDRescue, where me, Grayson Fulbright, and my wonderful co-host Austin Fuller go through real sales emails to review them, break them down, go over advice and feedback, and then actually rewrite them to give an example of how you can improve your copywriting and your selling skills. Austin, why should we watch this episode today? What's going on?
Yeah, so today, in today's episode, we are going to talk about really what the cost and the impact of a poor email experience is going to make on you as a rep. So if you have an assigned territory and if you're sending out bad emails, what the effect is on your buyer, which in this case is going to be me. You'll get to hear my experience. And more importantly, we're going to show you I think there's a lot of thought leaders telling you, hey, produce content, make videos, etc. But if you're doing that, if you're gathering information, what are some good approaches to take the next step? How can you get people to step into a buying process with you if you're producing content? Or one of the other rewrites at the end of this episode is, a Hail Mary, like, all right, if you can't get any intel, if you've got no information, if no one's looked at any content, if you really can't, and you're really just taking a shot in the dark, shooting from the hip, how can you try and make this as relevant as possible to ensure that they have a good interaction with you as a rep and it doesn't do damage to your territory and to your brand?
Well,
All right, let's jump.
like we're going to be learning a lot.
Yeah, we're going to cover a lot here. This is going to be a meaty episode. It's like getting the leg on the turkey.
Yeah, I agree. For those of you who are catching us right now, Austin has taken the rewrite for this week, and he actually showed three different ways, or three rewrites for the email that he's about to show you, because we wanted to really touch on the fact that there are so many different options that you have as a salesperson to catch attention and try to gain traction towards a conversation. And so we'll go over those rewrites towards the end of the episode. But Austin, do you want to go ahead and share your screen and let's show the people what email we're checking out today?
All right. So here's the email. Hi, Austin. I hope you're well. With 2021 on the horizon, a lot of my customers are going through territory planning exercises right now. I can imagine that with everything that has happened this year, territory planning for 2021 will be a time-consuming exercise you will go through. Our MAPS product enables territory planning, which enables teams to match revised business goals and external economic factors. Recently, with these unplanned changes, customers have been able to rebalance accounts automatically across territories, visualize hard-to-find performance data in seconds, allow new plans to be tested without affecting current plans. We use MAPS at our company, and I wanted to see if you'd be interested in learning about how MAPS can help Newarks as well. Do you have time to connect on this later this week or early next? Oh boy, did this email frustrate me. I don't think there's okay, we're going to lose Orange. Orange is brand seller information, just so you know. Orange is like basically what you don't ever want to have in your email, unless you're using it right, just so everyone knows, because we can't really fit Orange in the frame with how much zoom there is. So I'm going to try not to be super negative. If you have some kind of insight, so this is a really good example of so much opportunity, but choosing not to do it. I think a lot of SDRs are doing this where either because of management pressure, the system they're in, or ignorance because they're new at the job and haven't been taught anything else. You go in, you load stuff into Outreach or SalesLoft, whatever high velocity sales, whatever your sales engagement platform is, and you just spray. And look, the problem with that is that we are a customer. Newarks is a customer of this account. They have tons of insight into us and what we're doing as a company, and they could have asked a bunch of questions before sending this email to either gather intel or use intel they already have. And so I think as SDRs, one thing that you should be looking at is, hey, what intel do I have on this account without, like, throw out my template. What do I actually know about this business? I know they have this many employees. I know this is the person. I know they sell this product in this market. You know what I mean? Like, and just looking at it from that point of view, they're like, okay, how can I relate? Even if it's all firmographic data, right? If it's all just stuff you pull out of Zoom info, you can make something much more tailored, right? This had zero tailoring, and this came from a vendor of mine. We're their customer. So if this is the experience that, a Fortune 500 company is providing to their existing customers, it shouldn't feel like a outbound cold email. I actually had to look. I had to look and make sure I saw who it was from. I didn't know who the sender was. I was like, oh, this is a really long sales pitch, but they seem like they know us. And then I was like, oh, wait, it's from vendor company. I was surprised.
Yeah, I think this email really strikes me as something that you would send to a cold prospect. And so it did surprise me when you mentioned before the show that this was actually somebody who you or your company was paying. You're a paying customer, and they had all of this context, all of this kind of information that only they know about you. Like they as a vendor have this unique leverage that other vendors in their space don't, and yet they failed to use it. I think that's one thing I wanted to point out at the beginning is there's not necessarily anything dramatically wrong with this email. They contain the basics of, hey, I'm going to set context with 2020 on the horizon, present my topic, and make an assumption about what I think is going on in your business. And I'm going to go into a pitch about my product and then share a story about some of the future states that my customers were able to provide, and then try to get you in on a call. So structure-wise, like the right pieces are in there, and even in a good order. But I'm not letting them get away with this, because if they were your customer, or sorry, if you were their customer, then the bar is raised so high, because you're no longer a cold prospect that's going to open this email and be like, huh, Joe from so-and-so sent me an email. Who's that? What's this brand? Let me take a look because I'm curious. No. You already have a bar set of expectations because you know what their brand is, you know what you pay them for, and you also have kind of a baseline of what the business acumen level and the level of professionalism is at that brand. And so when you go in as an SDR or as an account manager trying to get an upsell on an account, you need to take all of that in mind. You should not be sending an email as if this is the first time they've ever seen your brand, because the fact of the matter is it's not. Nuarx is among their customer portfolio. So my big picture advice would be you got the pieces right in terms of how to actually structure an email, get through a pitch, show some benefits, and try to get them hooked. But remember that this is your customer. There are ways that you can bring context without having to sound so generic. And there's a lot of information in here that you could have either minimized or just excluded, because you can make assumptions like, hey, like maybe since you are my customer, I don't even have to say a lot of my customers are going through territory planning exercises right now. You could slim that down to a couple words and say, hey, I noticed you're a customer and not using our territory planning planning functionality. Something as simple as that. And that would have also changed the whole perspective. Whereas instead of telling this story that comes off like a pitch, it's actually talking about you as a customer and your experience. So to kind of walk back to my feedback, I would say got the right pieces, but remember who you're talking to, and remember also that you can get away with certain things once you've built an existing relationship, and don't let that go to waste.
Yeah, my number one thing is like, why is it that the only time you bother to send me an email as your customer is when you want to try and upsell me? And that's why you're stuck sending cold prospecting bad SDR templates as your upsell pitch to existing customers, and it's hurting your brand. And SDRs, if you're sending this type of email out to prospects, it's hurting your brand, your personal brand, and your brand with your personal brand less, because there's a high probability I won't remember you, but definitely your company's brand. Like it's just a bad brand experience. I get offended. Now, when you're a cold prospect, I mean, when I'm a cold prospect, I give you a little bit more leniency, right? You have a little bit more allowance because you don't know me, you haven't met me. But to have the wealth of data that this company does on us and how we use the product, to not include any of that, or at least. So here's the thing: is people love to throw in this garbage social proof. Like a lot of my customers, like, dude, they because of Robert Cialdini's book Influence, he talks about the different types of things, and one of them is social proof, right? And People love to toss it in there. Like this is a very junior copywriter. That's not the type of social proof that moves the needle when it comes to email, right? And we'll talk about the type of social proof that I think would have been more relevant. But people think that just tossing in generic, a lot of my stuff, I don't believe you. I don't believe that any of your customers are, because any of your customers that are smart aren't going to respond to this garbage email. That's harsh, but true. If I'm a customer, I expect a level of interactivity, right? Even when our sales team calls out calls, if we have some kind of upsell campaign, right? I tell them the first thing that they do is to go into our system, find out if there's any open tickets for the people you're calling, because the first thing I want you to do is say, hey, we have your tickets. Here's where they're at. Relevant, right? The number one thing that you're not going to upsell anybody that has a bunch of tickets in, help desk tickets. If they don't have any tickets, look when the last one was sent was, and they talk about their experience with us, because at the very least, if they're not interested in buying something from us, at least they've had a really good positive brand experience where somebody's trying to take care of them. We have something like, we're not a very big company, but we have like 20 or 40,000 individual sites. So not everybody gets like a individual. We don't have 40,000 account managers, right? But I just think that this hits home for me, and I feel really passionate about this. That's why I rewrote 3 different ways, is because we've got to stop this as salespeople, as account managers, as customer success, customer support. I mean, I don't even think support really does this, but maybe to a degree where everything's just templated and impersonal. Like the big difference is going to be not personalization, relevance. Relevance trumps personalization. And this is both. This is neither relevant or personalized as to a customer. Like this is like the cardinal sin in my mind. Like, how can you send cold prospecting emails? Like, it would be one thing to criticize this if this person had no idea who we were. It's the typical like, hey, here's our product, here's what it does, and here's why you should care kind of assumption. But man, this is a customer. This is somebody who's paying you. You should do way better. So.
Yeah, and to kind of leave a last note before we move to the rewrites, beyond the copy and the fact that this is an actual like existing relationship when they reached out, I wanted to mention too that the angling of this email to an existing customer really positions it as like either yes, you're in market right now to talk, or you're forcing a customer to like either say no to you or experience a negative event with your brand. Instead of focusing on the conversation, like I think you are already getting their money, and your team members, whether through contract or through the leadership team, are probably working together and communicating with each other to make sure whatever solution is implemented is running smoothly. And so it's totally comfortable and normal to have a conversation with a vendor about something like territory planning. And I think that there are so many ways that you can open up the opportunity for account expansion. And I wanted to make that note that I think the biggest mistake of this email is not really that they came at it like a cold pitch. I think it's the fact that they were very short-sighted about the outcome of this email. When they send it, if they sent this to every customer, they've essentially got 2 buckets. The people who are in market and were interested in territory planning and probably saw the pitch and was like, yes, let's get on a call. We're ready to give you more money. And that was probably a tiny percentage. Yes. The majority of them probably got the same like weird, sick gut feeling that everyone gets when they get a bunch of cold emails that don't pay attention to their needs, except it was with somebody who's their vendor. So I would just say that like, be very cautious of how you open up conversations with customers, because you have a lot of leeway. But also if you're demanding like one outcome or the other, or being very narrow-minded about what you're expecting from the conversation, you can actually just turn people off. In extreme cases, if you're reaching out with very, very like unprofessional messaging or like really hard selling, people might cancel depending on the level of service you provide and the costs and dealing with your team. You got to be careful about how you actually try to expand accounts once you close them, because it doesn't the perspective of salespeople doesn't change just because they become your customer. You can't get away with being unpersonalized, being irrelevant, and throwing out pitches and them being like, okay, that's fine. Like that's the same level of respect for my time as the other people on your team are giving me. I would disagree and say that like you're still selling them. So focus on the conversation and always focus on them instead of saying like, oh, hey, you're my customer. And since you're my customer, I want to sell you this thing because my other customers are buying it too. What do you think? That's just like vanilla paper plane, in my opinion.
Yes. Yeah, I agree that have this been a conversation, they actually had a shot at least making a case for it, right? Because that's the thing is, the one thing that we crave as salespeople is relevance, right? How can we make our pitch relevant? How do we show somebody that's the question for me as a salesperson is, how do I find the people it's most relevant to? But with customers, you can just have a dialogue and you can find out really quickly. I just think that people are afraid to find out whether something's irrelevant or not because they have management and leadership that's pushing metrics on them that they have to squeeze, right? That ultimately that's what happens is that at the end of the day, this is an email that is sent by a rep that is either A, really novice, or B, has some kind of end of year metric and push to meet some shareholders' desired outcome, that's trickled down through management. So we got to try and get 3% increase of revenue off existing customers. And so send this out and we'll get, you know what I mean? That's how it works. And so unfortunately it does more damage than good.
Well, I think your rewrites are going to show a good example of how you can open up conversation and actually like build positivity within this like customer vendor relationship while still positioning for an upsell.
Yeah, 100%. First email right here. It's not going to take long. Austin, as one of your vendors, I can see that you don't use sales territories in Nuarx. Why is that? So I meant this in kind of two ways. So first off, that hey, you don't use this product, right? You don't use this particular add-on to our product. Why is that? Like, for me, if I got this email, I'm intrigued to reply. So hopefully you have some kind of engagement with that person, but you could send this to somebody cold. My first reaction to this would have been, what is that? Right? Because I've never heard of this product before, this add-on, just so everyone has context. Right? I don't spend my time swimming through endless product updates of all my vendors. And so I think this is a great way to start. Like, why is that? Why aren't you using this product? Because a lot of people are going to say, what are you talking about? And then it gives you an opportunity to say, well, so now I'm asking you, right? This is the dynamic we want. I'm asking you, hey, what are you talking about? What is it? And so you can start a conversation that way. The other thing is that so the other meaning that I wrote into this, and I wanted to talk about this a little bit, and why this pitch was irrelevant in the first place. At Nuarx, we don't have sales territories, like geographic territories. We have segments. So like customers under a certain segment go to one team and customers above go to another. So and most people have both, right? They have territories and segments, but we don't. We don't use sales territories. So, but could I be persuaded to? Depends. What are the benefits? Educate me, right? Be useful. Hey, as one of your vendors, because this vendor should be able to see that. Hey, I can see you don't actually have any sales territories for your sales team at Nuarx. Why is that? Be genuinely curious. This is I think one of the biggest things that is lacking. I would have a conversation with an SDR that asked a good perceptive question. Now, granted, the SDR may not know this, right? This is the challenge with going outbound is that you don't always have all the context. But for example, if you have an account in a market segment that does something drastically different than the other competitors do, a good email to write to them to start a conversation is, hey, Austin, I see at your company, you do things X, which is way different than this company and this company and this company that I've interacted with, or you don't even have to interact with them, right? You can just observe, then this company, this company, this company in your market do. Why is that? Because now I want to have that's not a sales engagement. That's not a sales interaction. You're not pitching me anything. But I want to tell you about how I think. I want to tell you about how our business operates. Because then you can go and use that later.
Yeah. This is probably one of my favorite rewrites from you, simply because the angles that are available to the team that sends this email is infinite. If a customer is having a bad time, you could preempt a potential cancellation and correct the account by sending this email. You can upsell them on the actual sales territories app that you're reaching out about. You could figure out that they have no idea what they're doing about a certain part of sales and maybe get additional income from other streams like consulting or client services. Or simply, maybe you just get a response from them and you get information or intel that you can further use to try to push this expansion. And so that's my first feedback is notice how short and sweet it is. And yet every single section of these different colors work together to say, I am a caring vendor that you are paying and I see this thing and want to understand why. That's very relevant. If a vendor is reaching out to me and I am paying money for my team members to use it and they say that I'm not using something within the tool, as a decision maker, that's big red flags. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like we've got money going out the door and my team's not using this thing. Why? Like I would be on the same page as this SDR. I'd be like, yes, why? Let's hop on a call. Let me bring in the person that's going to be your eventual deal champion, and let's get on a call and discuss it, right? I think just this simple positioning as a helpful customer success leader, going to one of their customers to learn more about them, it gives so many angles for that person to take in growing that relationship and creating a future deal. The other thing I wanted to mention on this before we move on to the other rewrite is you have such a good intro. The beginning of your email says, as one of your vendors, I can see that. Kind of going back to the mindset that I would have as a buyer, if I'm paying you, you are already priority. Like that's why I have Slack with my team members, right? I communicate with my team members so much because we pay them. It's the same thing. When a vendor reaches out to me, that's important. And then you say, I can see that. So someone who's not opening this email is going to see, there's a vendor who I'm paying at the top of my inbox and they see something that might be relevant. Dude, you're getting it open. Even if you say, hey, as one of your vendors, I can see that it's your birthday. Happy birthday. Like, okay, you got me to open the email just with that great intro. So bravo there, Austin.
I think too, if you're, and this is going to be a little bit more applicable for customer success, but if you're a customer success person and you can see like certain features that they aren't using, because that's how our technology works. We can see which features are used and which aren't. Go ahead and snip and sketch that. I think it's called Sketch and Snip, or hold on, what is this tool down here in the bottom left? It's whatever the snipping tool is in Windows now. They changed the name of it, but Apple has the same thing. Dude, screenshot that and you put that at the bottom of this email and say, hey, I see you're not using this feature. Why is that? Or especially if they're paying for it. Hey, see you're not using this feature at all, but that you're paying for. Why is that? Just be curious. This is going to lead to more upsells, and they go, well, this and that reason or whatever. And this just opens doors, right? And as an SDR, you've got to be thinking, hey, what outbound attributes can you be using? Hey, I saw that you guys use Cisco Meraki, but you aren't doing business this, and this, which 3 other big competitors of yours that do use Cisco Meraki use this and this, or that's in our space. Or hey, 3 out of your 4 biggest competitors use Fortinets, but you use Cisco Meraki. Why is that? Right, like that's a type of firewall. Just so we're clear and setting context. That firmographic data is really useful if you're not using it to say, hey, you use Cisco Meraki. I see that, and we see that in the market, people that use Cisco Meraki users have this problem, and it's this bullet point, this bullet point, this bullet point, this can have 15 minutes, right? Right. This is where things are going. Is like that data is useful if you leverage it into having conversations instead of leveraging it into your sales pitch. But anyway, so that was the point of this meal. We move on to the next one for time's sake.
We might only have time for one more rewrite. Do you want to do the second one or your last one?
This one I think is better. The third one is not as good. So all right. So if this one applies much more to SDRs. If you actually are getting a hold of client prospects, this goes for clients. This goes for customers or prospects, right? Austin, I speak with 5 or more sales leaders every day. And most recently, they've all brought up frustrations with territory planning for 2021. They've struggled to match their territories to their desired business goals because all I did, by the way, for these 3 bullets is I took the 3 bullets that was in the original email, and instead of framing them as solutions, I just reversed them into the problem that creates those solutions, right? So they can't strike the right balance of accounts across their territories. That ties to rebalance accounts automatically across territories, right? So that's what they can't do. They can't balance them, which is why the tool would help, right? Real-time performance data can't be visualized, and I think that one was easy. I think the bullet use was just visualize real-time performance data. The third one is unable to test new territory configurations without disrupting their current territories. That's a problem. So those are the 3 problems. What do you find are your biggest challenges with territory planning? So first of all, you've shared. Sorry, Grayson, I'll go in. I'm starting to ramble.
Cool. Okay, so to kind of hop in here, I love your intro because I often use this intro as well, where if you have some sort of unique market knowledge, where like if you're an SDR or you're an AE and you're talking to people in the industry that you're selling into, that's unique knowledge. Nobody talks to 20, 30 sales leaders a day if they're a sales leader. It's very uncommon. So including that knowledge up front is often very good context for someone to open an email. Why should I open this email? Well, because they've spoken to 5 or more sales leaders every day. I haven't done that. I wonder what they're doing. Are they my competitors? Are they relevant to me? It gets all this curiosity drumming. And so I love the way that you position the intro with this email. My only feedback to you about this email would be the transition into your CTA, because I think you do really well framing it, because you say, hey, I get all this unique info, and here's one of the big things that they're struggling with. Here's why they're struggling with it. Bang, bang, bang. That's good. But then I think even with that, some people might say, like, why should I have to tell you about my biggest challenges with territory planning? And so either kind of following up with an incentive, or maybe wrapping everything together to start a foundation of a conversation. I think that would have been good in between the bullet point and the CTA, yep, just to make it a little bit more natural going into that call to action. But overall, I love it.
I agree with you. I think, looking at it now, I think there could be a way to set up the CTA a little bit better, or changing the CTA, like having, we won't touch on the third rewrite, but the CTA for the third rewrite is, hey, can I send you a copy of our guide for best practices of territory planning for 2021? So, I mean, if you can have that type of content, I just think, like, SDRs, guess what? You have to be the market insight leader. That's going to be how you get meetings now. Like, so Grayson said, hey, if you have a unique market insight, I would flip that on its head. If you don't have a unique market insight, you need to go get one. You're not going to get meetings. Like, it's only going downhill from here, everybody. The cold email return rates are only going to get, like, even as now maybe Grayson has a different insight, right? He does a lot more email copywriting, but like just your plain Jane cold emails is going to have less and less effect. And I think as an SDR, you're a human, you're not software, so you can go and talk to people, find unique market insights, and share them. Your conversion rate's going to be much higher. So that's my thing is, and guess what? You're probably already talking with a lot of people. You just have to change what you're saying to those people to gather and collect and record those insights, and then package it up and distribute it as content as part of your sequence. Instead of spending, when you get on a discovery call, add a couple of questions that aren't your BANT questions. Add a couple of questions that aren't your qualification questions. See how the conversation dynamic changes, and then document what they say and put it together as insights, and then send it as an ebook or as a content download or something from you.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm personally a big proponent of surveys, just because,
surveys, great one.
Like not only are you starting relationships with ideally prospects that you're targeting, you're getting invaluable information on them individually. You're getting invaluable information on your market as a whole, and then you can turn all that around and you can use it as collateral in marketing to support your sales efforts. And I would ask leadership if they're a little strict on how you do your prospecting methods, but that might be something interesting to do as an end of year thing to kind of prep pipeline for next quarter. Is, hey, I've been talking to you, and I wanted to ask a question that a lot of leaders in your space have been asking. I'm doing a survey on blah, 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 and would love to have you involved. In exchange, I can give you this value, and then follow up with a link to the survey once it's done. I think the value of getting your customers involved is a lot more valuable than simply reaching out, trying to guess what is valuable to them, and then pitching a meeting. So yeah, that was a really good point, Austin, on collateral in general, using content within the sales process. It looks like we're heading up to the top of the hour. So thank you to everyone who joined us today. Make sure to drop a like for all of the hard work Austin did writing 3 email rewrites for you, and drop a comment, or hit us up on LinkedIn if you want copies of these different email rewrites. We'll be following up later next year with a guide that includes some of these, but let us know if you'd like to get your hands on some of these and maybe even test some out. In the meantime, if you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube, make sure to do so. We get on this show every week, Monday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And please send us your emails, send us your questions, and how you're wanting to actually learn from this show, because we're happy to change it up however you'd like.
Have a great week, everybody.